Fairwork is a global project that evaluates the working conditions of digital labour platforms in sectors like ride-hailing and food delivery and home services, and works to improve those conditions for workers. We evaluate the platforms against 5 principles: pay, conditions, contracts, management and representation. But where did those principles come from and how were they developed? What follows is drawn from the paper Systematic Evaluation of Gig Work Against Decent Work Standards, published in the journal The Information Society. The starting point for any consideration of decent work standards will be the International Labour Organization, which launched the concept of decent work in 1999 and then formalised this into the 11 standards shown on the slide. We could have used those 11, but there have been 2 concerns. Firstly, that these 11 standards are quite broad and sometimes seen as difficult to implement. So instead, we drew from 2 rather simpler frameworks that have operationalized ILO standards: the Ethical Trading Initiative Base Code and the SA 8000 certification scheme. A second concern was that the original ILO standards were developed in the days before gig work. And so we also drew from 4 sources that specifically analysed decent work standards for gig work. Analytical review of those 6 sources drew out 8 themes that could be used to evaluate gig work. We then took those 8 themes into a set of 3 multi-stakeholder meetings held in Geneva and Bangalore and Johannesburg, with representatives of workers, of platforms, of government and of civil society. Out of this consultative process emerged the 5 Fair Work Principles, that is, fair pay, fair conditions, fair contracts, fair management and fair representation. Work on gig platforms is then scored against these 5 principles, with a maximum of 2 points being awarded for each principle, and hence each gig platform being scored out of 10, with a score of 10 out of 10 representing adherence to a basic minimum standard of decent work. We derive our evidence for the scores from 3 sources, which are desk research and platform manager interviews and worker interviews. And so here, for example, are the 2022 ratings for gig work platforms in South Africa. We have retained the same 5 principles during the several years that Fair Work's been operational, but they are constantly reviewed through stakeholder feedback and internal discussion. And so, for example, for the 2023 round of platform scoring, the 10 points available are as shown in this table. If you'd like to know more about the development and application of the Fair Work Principles, then please take a look at our paper, Systematic Evaluation of Gig Work Against Decent Work Standards, published open access in the journal The Information Society.